Hi, I'm Rick Titus, the host of Drivers Talk Radio. On behalf of my entire team, I'd like to welcome you to what we call the truth about trucks. You know, not too long back, Ford gave us the opportunity to take their truck and all their key competitors and tear them apart to look under the skin. Well, they're giving us that chance again, and frankly, they're doing it with some pretty bold claims behind it. They're telling us they're stronger, tougher, more innovative, easier to use, and have class leadership in payload, towing, and capability. They want us to go bare knuckle, no punches held, to take their 09, the all-new F-150 they're bringing to market, and compare it to the key competitors. And when they said take them apart, we took them at their word. The goal? They want to see if we felt they met all their deltas. They said this truck was built with no compromises whatsoever, and that the end goal was that you would love the truck as much many years down the road as the day you bought it. Those are bold claims. Well, we've taken them apart, and I'd love to take you from pretty to parts as we go under the skin. I've brought you to the back end of the 09 F-150 on purpose. I want to talk to you about brakes. I understand everybody wants to talk about the go pedal, and no one seems to want to talk about the whoa pedal. The good news is Ford puts a lot of emphasis on the whoa pedal. See, they take the responsibility of having best-in-class cargo and best-in-class towing seriously. And you're asking yourself, with brakes? Oh, you betcha, pal. Because a day is going to come that once you got all that go, you're going to be looking for some serious whoa. And to that end, modern technology. Now, some of the competitors, in fact, have caught on. Toyota for one, Dodge is the other. Now, what's the big deal? There's drum brakes and there's disc brakes, and as you can see, the disc brake's aptly named. It looks like a disc. The big advantage of disc brakes is their ability to get rid of heat. See, the whole responsibility of whoa is taking motion and reducing it to heat, and heat's the snag. Well, disc brakes do great because they're fully vented, the heat gets away. The other thing that was pointed out to me, remember, disc brakes stay adjusted all the time. Not true with drum brakes. So given the advantages of this kind of technology, you would assume that everybody would offer it. Well, let me show you something we learned. More accurately, a very disappointing discovery. During the course of putting 4,200 miles on this Chevrolet Silverado, we obviously did brake testing. And one of the things that caught us out right away was that every time we did repeated stops, the distances kept getting longer. Now, why would that be happening? Well, we assume, just like the consumer who buys this truck probably assumes, it had four-wheel disc brakes. I mean, it is a truck. We were very disappointed to see that they stuck with the old technology, hence less expensive, in the form of drum brakes. Now, drum brakes work pretty good on the first stop. There's a lot of friction surface here. The problem is, as you can see by their design, they store a lot of heat. And in braking, a lot of heat is not your friend. Not only in just 4,000 miles are these brakes already out of adjustment, but they glaze the drum as well. That nice, smooth, polished surface is not your friend. Hence why the distances kept getting longer. Yeah, this may be cheaper, but I'd like to remind Chevrolet, they bought a truck, not an economy car. Ford Motor Company's Michigan Proving Grounds has some of the baddest pavement ever put down. And within that circle of pavement lies a half mile called Silver Creek that we just love to use. It don't get any worse than this. It makes even the headliner and the radio knobs work to earn a living. So let's take our 4 trucks and go to Silver Creek, and let's see who really engineered durability. First up, Dodge Ram. Well, this is what it looks like when you put a car suspension on a pickup truck. Talk about mismatched. Sloppy fit and finish, and even the wheel recovery is terrible. Chevrolet Silverado. So bad is the inherent frame stability here, you can't even keep the truck going straight. Poor wheel recovery, and of course it's just beating the frame to death. Toyota Tundra. For all the bragging about how strong this frame was supposed to be, I wonder where they put it. Even the box and the cab are bouncing off each other. This is what engineered excellence looks like. Good wheel control, and a body and cab relationship that proves the frame is strong. It's all about putting that tire back on the ground. If you think Silver Creek looks brutal from the outside, you ought to try being the test driver sometime. It really does, in fact, beat you up. Now, at the conclusion of that testing, we brought those same trucks back here to our lab and started our teardown. Those are the trucks that you've been looking at. It was during the course of that teardown that we made some pretty startling discoveries, not least of which is once we pulled the powertrain out of the Toyota, we pulled the dust cover off the engine mount, not expecting to see anything, where we noticed it was torn. 4,000 miles and it's already torn, and then we noticed the metal shavings. That made us look deeper. It was during the course of that investigation that we discovered on both sides of the engine the mount had already been banging against its own retainer. This is not good stuff. That's an adequate mount for a Camry. That ain't going to get it done in a truck. But then again, who said they actually brought a truck? Now, that said, we started paying more attention to the other players. We pulled out the Chevrolet mount, and though it isn't, well, nearly as weak, it is a very old design. It does a fair job of noise isolation, fair, but in long-term durability, that's not the key player. We then, of course, wanted to go to the all-new Dodge, and frankly, we were a lot happier with what we saw. A monstrous casting, albeit with a very small rubber isolation. This was, well, a little disappointing because with this much beef, you'd have thought they'd have paid attention to getting the noise isolation down. To give you a direct comparison, this is the engine mount out of the F-150. As you can see, not only is the casting beefy, but so too is the noise isolation in the form of rubber. And there's a lot of intelligence in that rubber if you pay attention to it. The way it's designed pays on all axes, so that no matter how the engine wants to move or put any kind of noise and vibration into the vehicle, this thing's there to snub it. So you've got to engineer every detail. The truth about trucks isn't about the brochure. It's about what's under the skin, deep under the skin. Exclusive to the Ford F-150 FX4 is a device known as an electronic locking differential. The advantage here is huge. This device literally allows you to lock in the traction prior to the wheels slipping to look for it. Now, Dodge and Chevrolet, well, guess what? Their wheels will actually spin before their locker kicks in. That means you're already in trouble. And so smart is this device, it actually talks to the transmission and reprograms the shift logic to allow you to do a better job. Tundra, well, guess what? It doesn't have any kind of locker at all. And to that end, let's see what it looks like trying to scramble up a ramp full of rollers. All right, now the Chevrolet Silverado. Watch for the wheels to spin before they actually get traction. All right, now we'll test the F-150. And remember, the ramp closest to you is filled with rollers. But all that driver is going to have to do is engage the electronic locking differential, and up it'll go. Electronic locking differential, exclusive to Ford. You just saw. Once you use it, you'll never want to be without it. The backbone of any pickup truck is its frame. Unfortunately, you usually can't see it. Till now. We bought a frame from Toyota, from Chevrolet, from Dodge, and Ford so we could show you the differences. And other than painting them, they are exactly as they were delivered to us by their parts departments. The construction of this is critical. It really is the key, if not major component, of any pickup truck. This is what's going to carry the load, carry your family, carry that engine, suspension system, and tow the trailer every time you turn the key. So what's it made of and how is it constructed? And are there really differences? You betcha. This is a frame section out of the F-150. All of these come out of the same exact spot in each one of the manufacturer's frames. As you can see, it's one piece. They call it hydroforming, which makes it stronger, and it's very large in what we call section height. This is a new Chevrolet Silverado frame. As you can see, also hydroform. Good stuff. Adds strength. It's also one piece. But as you can see, it is much smaller in section, meaning it's not quite as strong. Dodge just introduced an all-new frame, and this is it right here. Give you an idea, it's neither hydroformed, nor is it one piece. In fact, it's two C-sections welded together. Not exactly ideal. However, Toyota felt it was adequate because guess what? They decided to copy it, and that's their section. Yeah. And believe me, there's places in their chassis where it actually opens up. Not good stuff. Now, another key component. Not only frame rail section, but cross members. This cross member, the third one in the row, considered to be critical. Ford not only makes it a box section, they use high-strength steel in portions of it, and they through weld it in their frame. Toyota actually rivets it in place. Not the way to go. Now, one of the quickest ways to measure a frame for strength and resistance to twist, because that's what load's going to do to it, is actually to use this meter right here. So every frame has been set up the same exact way. From the center point of the rear suspension, 57.5 inches along an arm. The potentiometer is 9 inches back in every one of the frames, and we use 225 pounds outboard on that arm to measure resistance to twist. Let's see how the Ford fares. Expressed in thousandths of an inch, that's the bar. Pay attention, 144 thousandths of frame deflection with this arm and 225 pounds. Now let's go see how the competition fares. Okay, let's see how the Chevrolet Silverado does. We'll put some load on it, about 225 pounds. 184 thousandths. Now, to give you an idea, that's sitting here on a static display. That's really not a lot of weight. How does it apply to the real world? Remember, when you have your vehicle fully loaded up and turn the steering wheel, you can put thousands of pounds of force in here, not just 225. This is their latest frame. We had hoped for a bit better. Okay, let's measure up the new Dodge Ram, and I want to emphasize the new Dodge Ram. I would anticipate fairly low numbers here because this is the all-new chassis. Well, that would have been a bad bet on my part. We would have expected far better. Again, they spent a lot of time developing this frame. But it kind of begs the old hamburger ad, where's the beef? Where are the big cross members? Where's the middle cross member? Where's the through welding? You know, perhaps they really don't want to be in the truck market. They went to Coil Springs, works nice on luxury cars. They've softened up their frame. If they still had frames under them, luxury cars would like this frame very much. But when you're going to load your truck up with any kind of cargo or any kind of towing capacity, those are not the numbers you're looking for. The biggest loser here isn't Dodge, it's the person who buys it. Last and most certainly least, Toyota Tundra. We'll let the tail of the tape tell the story. A deflection rate 4 times greater than that of the F-150. Now, Toyota's had a lot of years to study what the competition was doing, and yet this is the best they could come up with. Let me show you what the deficiencies are and how they'll affect you down the road. In terms of cross members, they're not even through welded in the best cases, and in some cases, actually riveted to the frame itself. Bad call. The fact that they use an open C channel when nobody else does. It also has an effect on handling, particularly when loaded, certainly long-term durability, and even a reduction in squeak and rattle. Riveting an open C channel is not the way to go. You've seen the twist numbers. You've seen the frame sections. We've shown you the cross members and even the differences in construction methods. This isn't radio knobs or carpet thickness or chrome grills or even what the cargo box will hold. This is the backbone of the truck. Put more succinctly, this is what Built Ford Tough is all about. Well, much to do about nothing. That's what I'd call the rear suspension on the 09 Dodge. That's right, you've read it everywhere. Big news, Dodge is going to Coil Springs. We couldn't wait to get the wheels and the body out of the way to see if there was some hidden trick that they had invented that was going to redefine pickup truck rear suspensions. Bottom line, nope. Gotta tell you what, if you own a taxi cab, that's the way to go. If you're going to build a truck, that ain't the method. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Rear suspension of pickup trucks have to tolerate big load variables. The days are empty, the days are half loaded, and the days you'd actually like to use a thing like a truck. Well, to give you an idea how serious they're not about being in that particular piece of business, here's the warning letter out of the glove box of this new Dodge. It says this vehicle is not recommended with use for a slide-in camper. There's also warnings here about center of gravity. Frankly, if you wanted a truck, you should have put a truck rear suspension under it. Let me show you how the pros do it. The leader in the business sets the bar, and that, of course, is the F-150. Now, the other key trucks in the market use a leaf spring. It is the conventional piece of wisdom in terms of suspending the back of the vehicle. I said big load variables. When the truck is empty, you're riding on the principal spring. As you add more load, boom, you're into the second spring. Now, when you want to go to best-in-class tow capacity or cargo capacity, Bang, you're into the third spring. See how it's adjustable in rate? And to make it ride nicer, Ford even added 6 more inches to it to give it that nice ride quality. A coil spring can't do that because it's not as adjustable to large load variables. Dodge chose the wrong spring and used it in the wrong application. And of course, there's a stability issue. You want these rear wheels to continue to aim straight forward. Narrow was Chevrolet, narrow was Toyota Tundra. Ford went 3 inches wide to make sure there's no wander or squirm from the back of the vehicle. And outboard shock absorbers. Their job, control that spring. Mount them outside, you get better tractive force and a better ride quality. See, when you're the leader, you don't have to copy anybody else. You show them the way, and Dodge just forgot to look. Just prior to our teardown, a real-world mileage demonstration was conducted at the Michigan Proving Grounds using these same trucks. All trucks were given 1 gallon of fuel and told to drive at a steady state speed in line with one another. F-150, Toyota Tundra, Dodge Ram, each driven at precisely the same speed. The goal, who could go the longest on the measured gallon. Well, Dodge already used it up. Toyota is now out of fuel. And going the distance, the F-150. When studying those results, we wanted to find out why the Ford went further. Turns out, they use a very aggressive program in the fuel shutoff system. What I'm talking about is when you lift your foot to coast down, they're very quick to get the fuel completely shut off. I mean, fuel dumping in then is totally wasted. The F-150 4.6 liter 3-valve has a 6-speed automatic transmission. The torque converter in the 6-speed is constantly relocking and searching for more fuel economy. The result of all this engineering, the 4.6 liter 3-valve V8 has 292 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque, an impressive combination of both power and economy. Bottom line, turns out if you want fuel economy, you've got to engineer it in. One of the things that's been fun to watch in the evolution of the F-150 series, quite frankly, has been aerodynamics. You know, not only was their goal to actually make it more fuel efficient, make it better looking, they also wanted to make it quieter as well. There are those who say aerodynamics is more art than science. I think we're about to prove them wrong. Let me tell you what we're looking at. Pay attention to the entry method they actually use to get the vehicle into the air. And there's a 2-stage chisel to the nose cone that really cleans up this air. You don't want to tear it up any more than you have to get into it. That said, notice how they angled the headlights back. Traditionally, you'd have those nice and flat. They brought the lenses further back so the air could come off the side much cleaner. Even paid attention to the location of the front spoiler. They found that down and back would actually give them better cooling and clean up the air going underneath the vehicle. You want it to stay as calm as possible. Fender lined, and even as they prepare the air to get into the windshield, you notice how they chiseled the body in the hood and fender area so the air would come up nice and clean. And subtle details like how they get the air around the side glass and through and by the mirror. Really pays off detail. Now, here's what's going to surprise you. As you really start to work into aerodynamics, you find out that a chiseled back end like this, a flat cut back end like this, frankly has a lot of drag to it. How can you reduce that? You chisel a corner at an angle and you chisel the top to try and feed that air back in cleaner. Now, a lot of people are of the opinion that if you put your tailgate down, you're going to gain fuel efficiency. Truth is, it works just the opposite direction. You work with that high pressure area here, and as the air comes off that cab, it literally comes back in here and touches the spoiler that Ford has now molded into the top of their tailgate. This gives you a little bit more downforce and gets the air off the back of the vehicle cleaner and more efficient. For most of Ford's competition, drawing a pretty truck's just enough. That's not the case at Ford. They wanted it pretty, but they wanted it efficient, and they wanted it quiet, and they wanted it stable. Aerodynamics, part art, part science. Fuel economy is engineered in layers. It's all about making that engine not work very hard to turn those wheels. It starts with aerodynamics. That's really the discipline of designing a body that gets through the air as clean as possible. Remember, there are models of the F-150 that get 15 city and 21 highway. One of the areas you work on is weight. Now this is interesting. Some pull weight out to save money. Others pull weight out that isn't doing anything. At Ford, it's referred to as smart weight, or as they like to put it, weight that works for living, we keep. Weight that just wants to ride around is leaving. And then, of course, there's the design of the tires themselves. You can actually design them to be lower in rolling resistance, and that contributes. What really helped out new for 09 is a new rear end ratio, a 315:1. Talk about slowing that motor down. Good way to go. A muffler design to minimize back pressure with a straight through design. And how do you get to have that rear end ratio? Well, you just come up with an all new 6-speed transmission with a very low first gear for getting you and any trailer in motion, but at the same time has a double overdrive 5th and 6th gear, so you slow the motor down while you're going highway speeds. And let me tell you, when you get that wide range of ratios, 6 different gears to pick from, you can really help the fuel economy. And a smart torque converter, one that's constantly recalculating to relock the converter whenever possible, again, to tie it to the higher ratios. A subtlety of detail, how about the engineering of the actual motor mounts to lower the idle RPM so that every time you're sitting in a stoplight, you got an engine that's churning very slow, again, saving in fuel economy. And for 4x4s, what a great item this is. A disconnect system for the front axles. So when you're driving in 4x2, you're not churning all of that mass. Helps fuel economy. Of course, all this designer and all this engineering help is wonderful, but you play a role too. As we say in our radio show, a little discipline in the right foot goes a long way as well. When it comes to towing confidence, it's built into the 09 F-150. We love the features available to give you that confidence. Case in point, you start down a steep hill. The speed's starting to get kind of high. All you got to do is hit tow haul, touch the brake pedal twice, and now the engine and transmission start to work together as the trans literally starts to downshift to help slow you up. Of course, you want to go a notch further? No problem. The available integrated trailer brake controller, just reach down, pull on the brakes, and bring the whole rig to a halt if you'd like to. We really love the location of this. We think it's far more intuitive. Chevrolet makes it available, but they put it down where you've actually got to reach for it. We're not a fan of that. And then, of course, there's the crown jewel of the family, and that is the standard trailer sway control. Let's talk about it. A real-world and frankly typical example. You're towing down the highway, and you encounter a big rig. The air cushion wants to move the tow package around. The F-150 with standard trailer sway control straightens the trailer right out. It's a non-event. The competition? Well, they seem dedicated to raising your heart rate and making this very much an event. Okay, so what just went on? Let me show you. I'm going to use this 09 F-150 frame and that trailer mounted on pivots to show you exactly what took place. Now remember, every 09 F-150 comes standard with trailer sway control. And what's slick is it works even if you forget to plug in your trailer's electrics. Pretty good stuff. Not magic, science. Once a vehicle attains highway speeds, it will recognize any yaw inputs it gets from the trailer, i.e., if the trailer starts to sway, the vehicle will recognize it, and the system will automatically apply the brakes opposite of the sway side. For instance, if we were swaying that way, the left side brakes will come on and pull the vehicle back into line. Of course, if it were to go the other direction, the opposite would occur, and the right side brakes would come on, again pulling it in a line, allowing you to drop below the critical speed and get things stabilized. If you have the integrated trailer brake option, trailer sway will instantly apply the trailer's brakes to help decelerate. Dodge is the only other truck with trailer sway control, but theirs is not the same. They do not offer the integrated trailer brake option, so their system won't automatically apply the trailer's brakes to help reduce speed. Chevy and Toyota? Well, they don't have any form of trailer sway control. Now, approximately 80% of the people buying an F-150 expect to tow at one point or another. So this built-in feature obviously means a great deal. Just know the F-150 is best prepared to come to the task the day it's asked to be used. The F-150 is the one that really will give you towing confidence. So you're asking yourself, why is this guy taking out a bed bolt? Because it's a really great place to find leadership. Sometimes leadership is subtle. I want to show you something you normally don't get a look at. See, when you have best-in-class cargo capacity, you're talking about a fair amount of load, and Ford thought it'd be kind of cool if it actually stayed attached to the truck. I kind of applaud the decision. So they use a monstrous bed bolt. Apparently not everyone feels the same way. Let me give you an example. There's Ford's. Of course, that's the one out of the Dodge. And there's the one out of the Chevrolet. Clearly they missed the meeting. Now, in all fairness, Toyota apparently made the first half of the meeting, because as you see, their bolt looks an awful lot like the Ford. But let me show you under the skin and what these things actually attach to. If you would please, I'd like that cargo box sitting right there. Thanks, I appreciate it. I'm going to take you where you never get a chance to go, and that's underneath the truck, and see what you're really buying with your money. And I'll tell you something, if Toyota customers got a chance to go here first, they wouldn't be Toyota customers. Here's what I'm talking about. I applaud the fact that Toyota took the time to mimic the bolts that you see in the bed of the F-150. The problem is, well, frankly, they don't got the box that justifies the bolt. Here's what I'm talking about. Anytime you follow a Toyota down the road, you see that cargo box moving around. You want to know why? Because it has no internal strength. Looks good on the outside, but that ain't what you're getting on the inside. Look at these very thin, very narrow, open-channeled cross members. Not the best way to do it. Oh, cheaper, but not the best way to do it. And they only have a single series of welds on them. Let me show you what leadership looks like. If you're going to have the bolt, you should probably have the box. And to that end, Ford does a heck of a job. Look at these cross members. Look at the width, the strength, and the fact that they're inverted and actually double series welded. That gives you double the strength. Like I said, if you're going to have the bolt, you probably ought to have the box. The long-standing advertising myth is that the world lives from 0 to 60. Man, if only that were true. In the real world, when you're towing, it's really about 45 to 70. That's when you need a package designed to do the job. That's why we love this 6-speed transmission and a powertrain designed to put that power right in that sweet spot where you need it. If you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and pass this Dodge. Well, interestingly enough, Ford, Toyota, and Chevrolet have come to the market with 6 speeds. But Dodge, with that big bad boy Hemi, 5-speed transmission. They can't match up or take advantage of their powertrain to help the vehicle become the tool. Great for drag racing, not great for towing. All right, let's go to the business end of the pickup truck. And you'd have thought that this would be a pretty level playing field. Turns out leadership has innovation even in this key region of a working truck. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Ford has best in class in terms of cargo volume. How'd they do it? Because they went deeper on their side rails than virtually any of their competitors. 22.4 inches. That's a good news, potential bad news scenario. Here's what I'm talking about. When we analyzed that, we said, boy, that's awesome, makes perfect sense, gives you great volume, but how do you get to all of it? The leader comes up with innovation with a class exclusive, hands-free to use box side step. Bang, hold your cargo, step on in, and load it the way you need it loaded, or pull it out the way you got to do it. And again, it stows away hands-free. That's how leaders think. Now, other key details. One of the things we fell in love with the first time we used it was what they call the rear view camera. Hidden within the actual logo itself is a camera that allows you to back right on up to a tail ball hitch. Now, as a guy who gets out 5 and 6 times trying to get his truck lined up, this is a feature I look forward to having myself. Now, even at night, the backup lights illuminate this area, and either on your mirror or if you've got the nav system, it'll show up there, allows you to back up first time, every time, bang, right to the ball. Neat technology. Tailgate assist, standard in Ford. Optional in some trucks. We think this is an important feature to make, frankly, living with the truck far more practical. They introduced something in Super Duty last year that we thought was awesome and hoped that eventually it would trickle down to the smaller trucks. Well, they didn't wait long. They understood when they had something going for them. They call it tailgate step. We call it a feature you just flat have to have. The ability to literally walk right into the back of your truck. This is how you maintain leadership. Now, the innovation doesn't stop there. Not only does this thing stow easily, as you can see, not exactly hard to use. Of course, they've got innovation in the overall cargo management system. Here's what I'm talking about. Now, most everybody in the game at this level already has some form of what they call bed extender. Ford took this one yet a notch further up. It completely breaks down and stows totally out of the way. So in terms of interfering with cargo you want to put in, or what has been a drawback for a lot of the competitors, the fact that you have to remove the whole system in order to fully use the box, again, they came up with some innovation. They also came up with this stow system and cargo management system. Now, at first blush, I didn't know if I would want this, but when you see the innovation and the flexibility this gives a customer, again, you understand why these guys are, in fact, the leaders. This thing's capable of holding up to 600 pounds. It's completely adjustable in how you divide the cargo, and you can option it up with what initially struck me as just toolboxes. Turns out these can be coolers as well, and I thought that was kind of neat. Last detail, subtle but really important. Standard rub rail guards. I think this molding is very important if you really care about your truck. The notion of dragging cargo over and across this paint job, not pleasant, yet Chevrolet doesn't even have it. Come on, guys, get in the game. This is how leaders do it. This is why, in fact, they've got the most flexible and usable and, frankly, the leadership position when it comes to cargo box design. Well, we said we were going to take you under the skin, and we meant it. Now, compare the size of this component to the entire truck, and it probably looks pretty unimportant. But this little part right here spells leadership. Here's what I'm talking about. Ford refers to this as a steering snubber. Hardly a glamorous title, but its role in making the driving experience satisfactory, gotta tell you, is huge. Here's what it's about. See, trucks today come with rack and pinion steering, and when you put nice, big, tall truck tires on them, you get this little annoying propensity called steering nibble. That little really annoying sensation of going down the road and the steering wheel constantly working back and forth. Ford found that unacceptable. To eliminate it, this little tiny component right here. And interestingly enough, the F-150 is the only truck that has it. When it comes to dynamic safety, you want every piece of technology you can get, and the leader gives it to you standard. The biggest safety breakthrough of our generation has been the development and introduction of ABS. It has saved countless lives. Now, they refer to it as an anti-lock braking system. We like to refer to it as the ability to brake and steer. Awesome breakthrough. And a number of manufacturers had started to take big advantage of what that ability to count and cross-compare wheel speeds could do. But Ford took it a notch higher and said, what can we develop from it as well? They developed a thing called EBD, Electronic Brake Force Distribution. It's great that you can get after the brake and steer the car, but what if the system on board that comes standard could measure those tractive forces and said, you know what, based on the kind of stop you're trying to make, we know there's more traction available, we're going to add brake to those key tires. Good stuff, and standard equipment on F-150. Then there was the introduction of standard advanced track on Ford's SUVs, and now coming on the 09 F-150. Talk about taking the technology another notch. Literally the ability to put the vehicle back on its intended path. Again, by cross-comparing wheel speeds and tractive forces, applying brakes to get the vehicle straightened out and put down the path that you had initially aimed it. Then they took it another notch further with the standard introduction of roll stability control. Again, developed in SUVs and now standard on the 09 F-150. This little box, a lot of brains in here, sits right here on the floor of the vehicle. And what it measures is what we call the roll moment of the vehicle. Based on the braking effort, based on where the wheels are turned and how the body is leaning, it says, you know what, we don't want to get in a rollover situation. We want to put more braking effort on to flatten the body out. That's dynamic safety. That's taking advantage of every technology available, and the leader makes it standard. The 09 F-150 is now going to come standard with 6 airbags on every model sold. 2 in the dash, 1 in each front seat, and 1 that runs along the roof rail called a curtain bag. Good stuff. on every model without exception. I point that out because we were very disappointed to learn that Silverados will get 2 dash bags, but if you want the curtain bags, well, that's an extra cost option. You've got to be certain when you're looking at a Chevy that you check the option box to even get those bags. Huge miss. And this really shocked us. Most Dodge Rams will come with 4 bags, unless, of course, you unfortunately bought a regular cab. In that case, you're getting just 2. At this juncture, guys, I want to tell you, everybody in the public expects every safety bag you can give them for their money. Now, every front seat of an F-150 is going to get a bag called a K-bag. This is a new technology that Ford has introduced. Gives them a pretty big leg up, considering that Chevy and Dodge don't even come with front bags at all. You've got to be kidding me. The seat development has come further than that. And one more thing. Tundras have side curtain bags, but they don't have a roll fold. What this technology does, by the way, this advancement is going to become standard not long from now, actually makes certain that as a bag is deployed next to your head, it moves your head away from the glass. Look for this technology to become very popular. One more thing. Attractive door panel, don't you think? Hardly the whole story. Hidden behind it, a device they refer to as a pelvis pusher. Funny name, big responsibility. In the case of a serious side impact, it's the job or responsibility of this device to push your pelvis away, buying you more time and distance from the intruding vehicle. It's about the details. Neither Chevy or Dodge have this, and Dodge just came to market with a brand new truck. Isn't it interesting? While others are figuring out ways to keep safety out, Ford continues to advance the science and the art of safety as standard. If you're truly seeking the truth about trucks, you've got to go under the skin. And when I say under the skin, I mean into the skin. This is the right front roof section from the Chevrolet Silverado. To say this is a critical area of the vehicle structure would be a gross understatement. Let me show you what's going on here and what disappointed us. This is how it was done a lot of years ago. Note the absence of any internal structure. We were very disappointed, but that's how Chevrolet chose to do it. Okay, let's take a look at the Toyota. Yeah, as we thought. Substantially better than that of the Chevrolet, but disappointing in total cross-section. This really would be better, albeit more expensive, if they made this bigger. You know, this is getting to be kind of a typical theme for this truck. As they say in Texas, all hat, no cattle. That's a Toyota. Okay, Dodge Ram. Let me show you this one. Bearing in mind, again, this is an all-new truck. All right, this was a mixed bag for me. Here's the thing. Definitely better than Chevrolet by a bunch. Clearly even better than that of the Toyota. But so far short of what could have been done here, and they had an all-new truck to do it with, missed opportunity. All right, now the 09 F-150. And frankly, this is so good, we want to show it to you in 2 parts. We're actually going to take the outer skin off, which is what you had been seeing on the other competitors. They use an ultra high strength steel that they actually hydroform, and this halo runs all the way down to the base of the A-pillar. This is how you do it. I got to tell you, that's what they meant when they said no compromises. I'll give you an insight to the future. I'll bet in a few years that's what all their trucks are going to look like. The difference is the Ford F-150 looks like this right now. You know, when it comes to front structure, do not judge the book by its cover. When you peel off the hood, the fenders, and the front grills, you find out real quick who really came to the game. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. This front structure has a lot of responsibilities. We'll talk about the crash responsibility in a minute, but on a day-to-day basis, this thing has a lot to contribute to the overall owner satisfaction experience because it stiffens up the cab and frankly stiffens up the frame. Now let's talk about the crash responsibilities. When impact masses come in, these front structures have the job of self-sacrifice and controlling not only the rate of deceleration, but how those impact masses come into the vehicle. So you want to make certain that as an owner, you got all the front structure they can give you. Not a bad start on Dodge, but not enough in my opinion. Talk about not enough. Toyota. Now this was a very effective method a few years back to actually build in front structure, but the game, or if you will, the bar, has moved significantly. They forgot to follow it. From an engineering standpoint, this is about 2/3 the size it really needs to be to do all that job. Its principal responsibility, hold the fenders on. Now, talk about inverting that whole system. How about apparently the responsibility of the fenders to hold the structure on in terms of a Chevrolet? That is unbelievable. Take the cover off this book, you're holding no book. Now let me show you how it's supposed to be done, and the people who continue to raise the bar. Once again, we peeled off everything and found that Ford had come to the game and moved it uptown. That said, you know about the responsibility of stiffening up the front of the suspension system. It makes it more responsive. It's done in race cars all the time. We want to quiet down the cab, you build in front structure. You want the doors to stay in place, no squeaks and rattles, you build in front structure. And if you want to win at the safety game and protect your customer, you build in front structure. Look at the way this can actually control intelligently impact masses and determine where they go to go around them in the cab. Did it work? Oh yeah. Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, top safety pick. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 5-star rating, frontal crash and side impact. Yep, when they talk about building a truck with no compromises, they mean it inside the book, not just on the cover. You know, unique to trucks is the challenge of developing a very strong frame and then placing upon it a very strong cab. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Specifically, the interior, where you don't get to see this, all this additional structure, all the way around the roof, down the pillars, these all add to the long-term durability and owner satisfaction. Now, it's an interesting mix of steel materials. You can imagine they use high strength in key areas, they use ultra high strength in other key areas, and there's even boron steel in the B pillars of what they call the Super Crew. And we really knew they were on top of the detail list when we saw gussets in the corners of the roofs to reduce the amount of twist. Keeping them quiet, just as important, and I'll come to that in just a second. They've even added 6 inches of length to the cab. And on the convenience list, wait till you see this. The floor got a ton of attention as well. I know that sounds curious, but pay attention. Completely flat for load-in. One more time, they moved the bar. Now, how did the others do? Well, let's take a look at that Chevy. Yeah, I don't think that was designed to be revolutionary. And Toyota, you're not sliding any boxes across that floor. And Dodge, you'd be lucky to slide your feet across that puppy. It's not the way to do it. Not if you're going to lead the pack. Now, sound deadening. Boy, that's a critical one. Ford, thicker in floor mat. Of course, you see some of the spray in here. They use what they call quiet steel. It's actually a laminated steel panel in the front bulkhead. As you can see, sound deadening mats all the way around the interior, including the back. And we even found some insulation that gets installed at the last second during the assembly process. Yeah, it's attention to detail that makes a difference, and boy, have they got it. You know, it's become real clear to us that at Ford, the cab is not just a box for holding seats. Well, the evidence is in. We'll let you decide. They said there was no compromises in performance, packaging, capability, safety, or comfort. When you're talking about pickup trucks, the truth is the F-150 is stronger, tougher, and has leadership in towing, payload, and capability. The truth is the F-150 is the best truck, period. This is going to be fun. Hi, I'm Rick Titus, the host of Drivers Talk Radio, and welcome to Super Duty Teardown. That's right, we're taking them all the way down. Oh, not just the Ford, we're going to take the Dodge and the Chevy as well. We want you to get an inside look of what these trucks are really all about. Let me give you just one little example of where we're headed. I hold in my hand what is, well, unglamorously referred to as a leaf spring bolt. I know that doesn't sound important, but this little piece right here, or in this case, this large piece, actually holds the rear suspension off the truck. I mention that because it's so much larger on the Ford than it is on the Dodge and Chevy. We're going to show you some innovation the competition doesn't have as well. How about this? A stowable bed extender. Literally folds out of the way or can be flipped over depending on how you need to configure your bed. And boy, do I love this one. A Tailgate step. This makes life a whole lot easier when working with your trucks. And that's what these trucks are about, aren't they? Working? Well, you won't think so when you see what the competition builds. Here's an interesting piece of innovation. It has kind of a funny name. It's referred to as a piezo injector. Almost looks like a surgical instrument, doesn't it? This thing represents a lot of advanced technology. Technology that, quite frankly, benefits you, the owner and driver. And talking about benefiting the owner-driver, here's one you're going to love. And talk about leading innovation and the use of technology. You know those nice chilly mornings when you jump on your leather seats in the middle of your truck and you're wishing it was warm instantly? Guess what? Ford's addressed that. 08 Super Duty has a thing called Rapid Heater. This thing gets the interior warm in a very big hurry. Really neat stuff. That's right, we're going to go in and make those kind of discoveries. And of course, we're going to give you an honest look of what Chevrolet's been doing with their truck as well. When we get done here, I think you're going to understand why Toby Keith calls this thing the Big Dog Daddy, because that's what it's all about. So please, join me. Okay, let's talk candidly about engines. Now, at this level, these trucks are expected to work, and I suspect a lot of people believe that all you have to do is just add more power. If it were only that easy. This is why other people do it in different ways. This is the Power Stroke 6.4 liter diesel. This is a big engine, and it is all about power, but it has other responsibilities. It needs to be efficient, it needs to be tailpipe clean, and it needs to have drivability, and we're going to touch on each one of those. Now, in World War II, the big way to make power is to take an engine and add a big, huge turbocharger to it. Take a lot of atmosphere, compress it into those cylinders, and make big power. Well, with an airplane, you're going generally one speed. That turns out not to be true with a car. We need drivability. So Ford comes up with a different approach. They go with what they call a dual sequential turbos. And it gets trickier yet. Not only do they use two, and I'll tell you in a second why, they actually make one of them electronically variable. We'll get into it. Nick, Dave, if I could I get you to take that off of there for me, please? Now, I would do this, folks, but it'd be showing off, and you know, that would be good for one take. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that very much. This is the mechanism that sits on top of the engine, and this is really a process of evolution. Here's what I'm talking about. We know that you can make big power with a turbo. The problem is it destroys the drivability. I mean, if life was always about being on the open highway and towing at one speed, you'd be golden. Problem is, life's not like that. So to add drivability, there's a small one and a big one. The small one spools up very quickly. That gets rid of what we call throttle lag. And to make it even more efficient, Ford has actually made it electronically controllable. They can actually change the physical size of its volume electronically. That then feeds the second and big one. So you're sitting at a stoplight, you're fully loaded up, it turns green, you tip into the throttle or pick the gas pedal up, boom, you've got drivability right now. That was one of the big part of the process of making this engine not only powerful, but efficient and drivable as well. On the topic of efficient, and another delta they wanted to accomplish, they wanted it to be quiet as well. So they came up with a piezo, hard to say, funny name, but boy, sophisticated part, piezo fuel injector. See, when you deal with diesel fuel, it's much thicker than gasoline, and the trick to fuel delivery is the atomization. How can you mist it in there? So this thing literally makes up to 5 mists per cycle. Very, very powerful stuff, and very efficient. The other key to this thing, it's buried down deep inside the block, so it's quieter as well, and I'll demonstrate that in a bit. But every time you make power, you gain other challenges, and there's other ways to make it happen. Case in point, okay, we know a turbo adds power. We know the 2 turbos improves drivability. We've also learned that if you cool the fuel and cool the air that the engine's actually inhaling, it gets even more powerful and more efficient and cleaner at the tailpipe as well. Now, you make more power, you make more heat, and durability is certainly important to this customer. So Ford has tested over 600 engines and nearly 10 million miles of durability deltas to make sure this engine's strong. This water pump, 50% larger than last time. 50%. The volume of the water this thing moves is monstrous. Huge impeller, big water or coolant going through the engine, and to support long-term durability there, guess what? This is the actual shaft inside of that motor. This thing is stout and a huge bearing to carry the load. Okay, now you made that power. Wonder where all that power is going. We got it to the pistons. Now we got to get it to the bottom end of the engine because that's what's going to get it to the rear wheels. Well, that kind of load can be huge. For long-term durability, well, this is the bearing half that comes out of the Dodge engine. As you can see, it's a 2-bolt system, and the bearings for these cranks would be right inside of here. Frankly, pretty small. Chevrolet stepped it up significantly. It's not only larger, they use 4 bolts to control it. They want the stability of that being in there. And that's good stuff. I see the marked improvement. But let's take Evolution a real rapid step forward. Why don't we just go ahead and go with a bed plate, put all the bearings in one big huge monstrous surface and gain a lot of control over what happens on the bottom part of the engine. That's why I said 10 million miles of durability. So if we know our goals are better fuel efficiency, certainly cleaner tailpipe emissions, enhanced drivability, and ultimately a quieter motor, how about another little perk? How about one that will start at minus 20 degrees? Something diesels aren't exactly famous for. Next time you're in a restaurant drive-thru and you can talk into the speaker and actually be heard, think about just how quiet that engine actually is. Oh, then throw in the power and efficiencies. That's a winning combination. Fortunately at Ford, built Ford tough just doesn't mean tough looking. It means you can actually use the truck to work. Now, if you option their trucks up with what they refer to as a PTO, an optional power takeoff unit, we've got an additional water pump driving off of this one, you can actually run a myriad of accessories. And the way you make that PTO work best, well, you have it on high idle, which is also part of the programming. Now, you also get these upfitter switches. You combine those two options together, you've got a truck designed to go to work for you. Now, that said, a lot of manufacturers seem to think that when you were going to do that, you'd probably do it for 15 minutes at a time. That's not Ford's approach. They believe you've got to be able to take that truck out in the field or wherever you're headed with it and make it high idle like that all day long and drive the accessories you need to drive. I mention this because there's a real difference in philosophy on how you protect that truck or help it remain durable. Give you an example, radiators. If you're going to ask that motor to work that hard all day long, you want to make sure it runs cool. This is a radiator of the Dodge, and frankly it looks pretty large, but it's surprisingly thin. And their water pump is surprisingly small as well. Heck, I've had car water pumps in my hand that were larger than this. Chevrolet, though they went smaller in overall surface area, did go slightly thicker, and their water pump is in fact slightly larger. That's got to be an improvement. But in the end, if you're serious about rigging the truck to actually work, well, you want the largest radiator you can get, you like it nice and thick, and you want a water pump designed to push fluid through it to protect that truck all day long. You know, in the end, if you're serious about working with your truck, then you need a serious truck. And frankly, that's what Super Duty is all about. Now, I understand that new technology is all good. But you know, I sort of miss when you have a 4x4 of pushing levers and pulling gears and engaging hubs. Man, those days are history. On that Super Duty that comes with 4x4, guess what? You get shift on the fly. The ability to just hit a little lever, boom, you're in 4x4. I don't know, where's the drama? They do have one manual thing left. They have the availability of a manual hub override system, so you can get out and at least neutralize those two hubs. Sometimes it's just getting too simple, don't you think? All right, it doesn't get any less glamorous than being under here, but boy, if you're a frame, and that's what that is, or if you're a suspension component or a power component, this is where you live. And it's here, though you rarely ever see it, that your money really goes to work for you. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Let's take capability on first. People who buy these vehicles expect them to work. And to do that, wouldn't you like to have the best in the game? Well, guess what? At payload, 6,120 pounds, best in class. Conventional towing. You want to put a trailer back there? 16,000 pounds. Oh, that too happens to be best in class. You're a fifth wheel tower? Man, you want capability, do you not? Boy, this new F450, this pickup truck, 24,500 pounds, that too being best in class. In fact, while we're on the topic of best in class, how about the gross combined weight rating? For Super Duty, 33,000 pounds. That's what you call building a vehicle that's fully capable. Let's talk about versatility. You know, I don't think any two customers use these trucks identical or need them packaged the same way. And to that end, Super Duty gives you a wide range of wheelbases so you too can decide how you want to set your truck up. And details like thinking that the owners may want to put different equipment on the front of the vehicles. They pre-drill for mounting for any kind of equipment up front, up to and including snow plows. Important touch. Other key things. Bear in mind, everyone loves to brag about all the torque and their four-wheel drive capability and the power they've got. Well, all that puts effort in the frame. I showed you earlier how much bigger all the suspension components are and how hard this stuff works. All of that affects the life of the frame. You want it well built. Well, I got to tell you, in terms of protection, you know, for the longest time, frames in this segment were actually what they called waxed. Oh, it had a black color to it, but it was a coating that was slimy and messy to work on. That doesn't normally affect you, but what does affect you is the possibility of actually scraping some of that wax off, and now you've given up your rust protection. No longer true on Super Duty pickup trucks. That frame rail is now E-coated, so the protection staying with the frame. Yeah, this isn't, well, the most glamorous place to be, and it's probably like buying a book and comparing the bindings, but I'll tell you, your money's well spent here. See, at this level, this isn't just a truck, this is a Ford Super Duty truck. Well, our journey under the skin takes us even deeper yet into what I like to refer to as key components. Now, you might disagree with me, but we're talking about the components that actually keep the, well, wheels attached to the truck. So pretty darn important stuff. We'll start with what's referred to as an upright or a hub carrier. This is the one off the Dodge. Its principal responsibility is to hold the bearing, the brakes, and of course the wheels attached to the vehicle. So it works pretty hard for a living. This is the one again off the Dodge. And frankly, looking very similar to it, a little bit different in its architecture and layout, but by weight and mass, this is the one off the GM product. Give you a sense of what the Chevrolet looks like. Well, just so you get a sense of how Ford approaches this topic, I mean, if you're going to have a 4x4, you're probably going to work that thing pretty hard. Hey, Dave, if we could, would you mind dragging that thing up here? Now, he handed this thing to me once and never mentioned the thing weighs more than well, the average small home. This thing is serious. Folks, this is how Ford Motor Company approaches it on the Super Duty. Now, these are cute. I really think they are. But when you talk about the ability to go out there and work hard for years and years and years, this is how you build that key component. Now, so that you get a better sense of really how they approach this thing, another key component would be, well, the steering. See, this is the steering linkage off the Chevrolet. It's not bad looking stuff, bigger than you see on your average car. But I want to give you a sense again on Ford's philosophy. Hey, Dave, would you mind bringing the steering piece, please? Again, this is key linkage. This is what attaches to the wheel, so every time you move the steering wheel, they actually go the direction you point them. It would be a good habit if they kept that up. But of course. Now this thing I actually see two uses for. Steering your truck, and if you remove it in the mornings, you could go ahead and do 10, 15 reps of this thing and actually get stronger yourself. Your truck is strong, and now you're strong. Do you see what I'm saying here? The approach and the philosophy is completely different. Now, another major component on all of these issues is how you attach it to the vehicle itself, i.e. the lower control arm. Now, this is off a Dodge. This is off a Dodge 4x4 heavy-duty truck. You're kidding me. I've actually seen it off small import cars or larger. This is kind of sad. Chevrolet, I'll give them credit. They kind of came to the game a little bit more serious. That's their lower control arm. This is the thing that takes all the beating. This is the suspension component that when you drop it into a pothole, go over expansion trips, nick a curb, or go off-roading, this thing works real hard. Just so you understand how Ford approaches it, if you would, Dave, I'd love to have that lower control arm. See, this is cute. If you got into ping pong, this could be your puppy. But if you're into playing hardball, this is what Ford calls a lower control arm. You kind of get a sense of the difference, don't you? I mean, that's the kind of thing that permeates their thinking all the way through these trucks. Yeah, you can do it like a big car, or you can be serious about being the leader in big trucks. Ford suspension engineers gave themselves a very big challenge. They wanted to take ride, handling, and stability to all new heights. To do it, they made significant changes to the rear suspension of Super Duty. They went 3 inches wide on the rear leaf spring, and they went longer. That enhanced the stability. The extra length actually improved the ride, and guess what? The way they mount that suspension gave them additional strength at the same time. Here's what I'm talking about. To mount that rear spring, which really is fundamentally the rear suspension of the truck, we find a difference in philosophies by all three different manufacturers. Here's what I'm talking about. These are the mounting bolts for the rear suspension system on the Dodge big truck. This is the bolt that's used on the rear suspension and leaf springs of the Chevrolet big truck. This is how Ford approaches it. See, everything about a Ford Super Duty is built Ford tough, and as you can see, its definition of the word significantly stiffer than that of the competition. Now, let's talk about some payload capacities and specs. Here's what I'm talking about. If you're looking at an F-250, you're looking at cargo capacities of a little over 3,000 pounds. Above that, you should be looking at F-350, and frankly, that'll take you over 4,000 pounds, and if you go with a dual rear wheel setup, you can go to 5,700 pounds. Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting on the F-350. Literally, you can spec an F-350 with single rear wheels, and it will actually meet or exceed some of its principal competition as they go all the way up to dualies. So pay attention to those combined gross vehicle weight ratings. Now, if you're going to carry the big loads, then you need the Champ. And the Champ, well, that's the F450, and it'll carry 6,120 pounds back here. But it's one thing to talk about it. Let's go ahead and put this truck to work so you can see what it's all about. Americans love their pickup trucks. We use them for everything from recreation to transportation, and some of us even use them to work. Well, the second you ask them to work, you better be confident you bought the right truck. Let me give you an example. This F450 is capable of towing 24,500 pounds. The second you hook that load up, you tell you what, Jack, you better be confident you bought the right truck. I mention that because at Drivers Talk Radio, we unfortunately do get emails from people who had their confidence shattered because they bought too small a truck to do too big a job. Well, confidence starts with power, and that's what we're going to walk through. We're going to talk about the kind of power it takes to take on a full load. We're going to talk about the cooling it takes to actually give you confidence that you're protecting that engine. We're going to talk about the confidence of the right transmission designed to do the job. Brakes. Talk about shattering your confidence. How about many trucks out there, they'll get the load going, they just can't stop it. And even confidence in steering feel and knowing what those front wheels are up to. And sadly, so many of the emails we get include the fact that what destroyed their confidence, what scared them, was how unstable the truck felt when they actually loaded it up. Stability is part of confidence. And vision. Sounds odd, but when you drive a truck as transportation, well, guess what? The information necessary to drive it as a work truck or for recreation changes the second you put a trailer on it. We're going to talk about that. And strength of components. You know, when you're just running down the road by yourself, you don't think about the strength of nuts and bolts and key components in the vehicle. Confidence comes from knowing that that thing's been bolted together the right way. And ease of use, confidence comes from knowing that truck was designed to do the job you're asking it to. And we're going to get into that more later. But let's start with power. Super Duty offers three distinct power plants. They got the Triton 5.4 liter V8, a very, very strong V8 motor. My engine of choice, of course, on the gas line is the V10. It's a 3-valve, 6.8 liter, and a stunning engine. But if you're a diesel fan, then what I'm standing in front of is key. We're going to highlight the 6.4 liter Power Stroke diesel. This thing makes 650 foot-pounds of torque, and key to its drivability and efficiency is laying right here in front of me. This is the dual sequential turbos that comes on this motor as standard. Very precise fuel delivery, very good throttle response, and a bunch of torque right off the bottom of the tachometer. It's also the quietest Super Duty engine we've ever had. Now, when we talk about confidence, we talk about keeping that powertrain cool. And to do that, guess what? 6 coolers is offered on this package. 6 coolers. One for coolant and fluids, obviously. One for the air conditioner. Obviously, one that's now part of the intercooler, or what they call an air charge system. They're even cooling the fuel. That's how serious they're getting about it. And up to it, including cooling the transmission as well. Also, you want a water pump that's up to the task. This thing's a monster. In fact, this thing can power most household air conditioning systems. This thing's all about moving a lot of fluid through the system. Now, the transmission's the next thing in the line that really gets worked hard, and the good news here is the available torque shift trans. This is a 5-speed. It's got a much stronger torque converter. This thing will tolerate the loads, not only what this motor will make, but in the kind of weight you might put behind it. And I love the fact that it comes with a tow haul mode, which really helps in less gear hunting and is particularly useful for descending steep hills. Short of the IRS calling you at home, I can't think of anything to get your heart rate up quicker than brakes that aren't going to get the job done. You want to talk about confidence in towing, you want to know you can get that load whoa-hoed. Well, to get that done, Ford gives you these monstrous, fully vented disc brakes. Fully vented, so the heat gets out of here, and these things can be repeatable. Talking about stopping force, dual piston calipers designed to put a ton of clamping energy right here on this disc brake. They've also got an interesting accessory referred to as the Integrated Trailer Brake Controller. At first I thought that was a fancy name for something confusing. In the end, what a great option this is. This is slick stuff. Reach right over the dashboard and instantly you can start to bring on your trailer brakes to get the trailer back under control or stabilized. Neat stuff. On the topic of stabilizing, well, guess what? That's really a function of steering. Knowing what this steering is doing is critical. I love the feel it's in the wheel. And in terms of confidence of steering strength, that's the kind of steering links we're talking about. You compare that to the competition, you won't even want to drive them. This is the kind of thing that makes you know all the time what these front wheels are doing, both in braking and in turning. That's what towing confidence is all about. When it comes to towing confidence, information is your friend, and nothing will get you information faster or more accurately than a good range of mirrors. And Ford offers a full range of mirror options. My favorite, what they call Power Scope. This puppy's trick. I'm talking about from your seat right there, you can power it out, power it back, or power fold it. Now that's convenience. And in terms of visibility, it's a monster lens with a convex lens. This puppy is all about information. That's towing confidence. Stability under load has proven to be a bit of an Achilles heel for some trucks, and nothing will shatter your confidence quicker than when you start tracing your truck all over the road because it isn't stable. To handle that up, guess what? Ford uses 3-inch wide springs, longer in length overall to improve stability, and they're all mounted with monstrous hardware. The frame strength back here is similar to the frame strength up front, and in total, a frame designed to carry the load. By the way, it has attached to it an available 2.5-inch hitch receiver, so this thing's ready to tow. Now, where's all this load going? Well, it really works hard in this rear suspension, and to that end, big lugs to make sure the wheels stay attached. Monstrous axles to make sure they can handle the load, and of course a drive shaft designed to take all that power and torque and get it to these rear wheels. That's towing confidence. Real ease of use is often found in subtle but very important details. Details like a trailer plug-in that's both 7 and 4-pin capable, and the optional backup camera system that allows you to see exactly where you're going. All of these details working together to give you confidence in towing. If you're going to conventionally tow 12,500 pounds, then the F-250 is perfect. But if your needs require something more, well then you can confidently tow with the F-350 in the configuration I'm driving, 17,700 pounds. But if you need even more, guess what? This thing will pull 18.7 if you need it to. When the task requires that you tow a record-breaking 24,500 pounds, well there's only one tool that can do it. That's Ford's Super Duty F-450 pickup truck. And just so you know, that's what 24,500 pounds looks like. If you're new to pickup trucks at this level, you're going to be blown away at the selection. From cabs to powertrains to wheelbases and packaging, there's a lot to choose from. Even if you've been at this level for a while in trucking, you're going to be shocked how Ford has bumped the bar even further. They take quite seriously this notion of a truck for every job and purpose. Let me walk you through it real quickly. F-250 F-350, and Ford now makes an F-450, the only manufacturer making a truck at that package level for a pickup truck. 3 different cabs, regular cab, super cab, and crew cab. You've come to expect that. 2 different boxes, 6 3/4 or 8 foot, and of course available for either the dual or single wheel applications. 5 different wheelbases of pickup, and a huge array of chassis cabs. Engine choices become critical here, and boy, does Ford give you selection on that count. The new Power Stroke diesel at 650 foot-pounds of torque. That thing's job specific. The Triton V8, the 5.4 liter at 365 foot-pounds of torque, but best in class, the most powerful gas engine you can buy would be the 6.8 liter Triton, the V10, at 457 foot-pounds of torque. 2 different transmissions. Unlike Chevrolet, Ford does offer a 6-speed manual, but most of us will likely opt for the very sophisticated 5-speed torque shift Autotrans that has available PTO port. 4 different axle ratios. Again, that becomes very job specific. And as I mentioned earlier, both a single rear wheel or dual rear wheel applications. 5 different interior levels, and man, does that run a range. From XL, XLT, FX4, and Lariat. Add to that Cabela, King Ranch, and Harley Davidson. In terms of innovation, man, talk about leading the game. Available tow command, tailgate step, which boy does that make life a lot easier, bed extender that's storable, and of course rapid heat and the all-new reverse camera system. Yeah, if you want to come into this market and customize a truck specific to your purpose or your job, Ford's the one you need. You would assume that the cargo box of a pickup truck would receive the same engineering and construction detail as the rest of the vehicle. Well, guess what? When it comes to the direct competition of this vehicle, you might just be wrong. Let me give you some evidence. See this box rail molding? This is standard on a Super Duty. See, Ford understands you're going to use this for work, and to protect your investment and the appearance of your truck, they include that as part of the deal. The competition wants you to pay extra for it. Even the operation and versatility of the tailgate, which frankly works pretty hard for a living. The fact that they've got the class exclusive tailgate step, which frankly makes using this truck a whole lot easier. That's the kind of thought that went into this vehicle. The fact that both their short box and the long box carry more capacity than that of the Dodge or Chevrolet. And the one that really puts it over the top for me, well, how they even mount the box. Big differences. To give you an idea, that's the cargo box bolt off of the Dodge. That's the cargo box bolt off of the Chevrolet, and they don't even go through the frame. See, if you really engineer the box, that's the Ford Super Duty bolt. See the difference? And this one goes right into the frame. See, built Ford tough? Well, that means all of the truck, not just the front half or the brochure. One of my favorite parts about this journey is that for a short time, we get X-ray vision. What I'm talking about is the ability to take you under the skin and give you an insider's look into how each one of these manufacturers approach building their truck. Oh, everybody paints them slick, and they all come with a really good brochure. But when you get underneath all of that, how much or what was the approach that the manufacturer used in building their truck? To give an example, tailgates work very hard for a living. This is a tough job. We took the skin off this one so you could see inside the Dodge and find out, did they really put the engineering money and time and effort into building you a good sturdy tailgate? Now, if you didn't have one to compare against, this probably looks pretty adequate. It's got a cross brace of serious depth and of course one support bracket. Hang around, you're going to be surprised. Remember, everything heavy you pick up, boom, gets dropped on that tailgate and then slid into the cargo box. And on the way back out, same routine. These things need to be durable, at least as durable as the cargo box itself. Here's Chevrolet's approach. One cross brace, one bracket. Oh, and for $95 extra as an option, they will give you what they refer to as Easy Lift, though quite frankly, given how puny it is, it probably ought to be called the kind of Easy Lift, and they give you a key. I mention that because they come standard on every Super Duty Ford that you buy. You actually get one that's twice the size, so it really is a lift assist, and of course the key is standard as well. Oh, and 3 cross braces and additional bracketing inside to stiffen this thing up. Now, by having a stronger box, you're going to get more durability, and it's thicker as well. You also get the opportunity for more innovation and how you use that tailgate. Let me give you an example. Here's the optional, what they call storable bed extender. so you get more cargo space. And of course, what I love is this tailgate step that only includes this handrail to help you get up there and the ability to work in and out of the truck much easier. See, when you really look under the skin, you begin to understand why they've been the best-selling trucks for 30 years. Okay, we talked about power and frame and tow and cargo, but when we start talking interior, well, that's sacred ground because everybody realizes this is where you live. Now, Ford's efforts to be quietest really pays off right now because this is where you're going to spend a lot of time. By the way, in terms of selection, we should talk about the fact that Ford has 5 interiors to suit every customer's needs. XL, XLT, FX4, Lariat, Plus, Cabela, King Ranch, and Harley Davidson. Let's talk about space because everyone wants to brag about what they can carry. Well, when you talk about carrying human beings in the biggest cabs each one of the competitors has, as well as Ford, guess what? They win on headroom, front and rear, and that's worth noting. Shoulder room, front and rear, and hip room, front and rear. I mention that with such emphasis because if you compare, you'll find out shortcuts got made in other competitor trucks. Now, other details, sometimes not so glamorous, but really affect living with the vehicle. I'm big on armrests. The ability to drive down the road and rest your elbows, very important. I've written lots of magazine stories where I picked on vehicles whose armrests and center consoles didn't match up, or you couldn't even reach it with your elbow in some models. Center console here taken very, very seriously. Not only comfortable to lean on, but frankly, even its design. First of all, designed to actually have hanging files in it and can even stow away, guess what, your laptop. It is about usability at this level. Of course, there are double door seals, in terms of packaging in the doors, very convenient. And the availability of the keyless entry system. By the way, that's an exclusive. And if you've ever had it, you're not going to buy a truck that doesn't have it. Now, on Lariat, I need to talk to you about the fact that they, in fact, have a dual zone HVAC, they refer to it. Heat, vent, and AC system. Dual zone, and that's available with controls right here on the steering wheel. That's also available for the audio side as well. Standard audio input jack, that's the level you're playing the game at now. And of course, you want features like nav system available, satellite radio available, and big audio. Now, I'm not an audiophile, so big audio is the only way I know how to put this. But I'm talking the kind of power that can really vibrate the leather. To do that, you need 8 speakers and, of course, a subwoofer. Well, good news is Super Duty's got it. Oh, and the availability of a rear DVD system. Though as a driver, I got to tell you, I've never been able to fully appreciate that in the back seat, but they tell me it matters. And of course, this feature you're going to love. Now available, the new backup camera system really does make life a lot simpler in tight quarters. Yep, we love to talk about engines. I mean, that's the root of these trucks. And of course, everyone loves to talk about what they tow. But in the end, don't all of us really worry about what we can get to choose from here? Every once in a while a feature comes along that you go, wow, why didn't somebody think of that a long time ago? Or better still, why don't even make it available? Well, the good news is on Super Duty, they have an option now referred to as Rapid Heat. It's a supplemental cab heater. What we're talking about is coming out to your truck on a very chilly morning and very rapidly bringing that cab to temperature. This is optional on the Power Stroke diesel. It's available in every cab from XL to Lariat to even including the King Ranch. This is a little feature, though you'll never get to see it, that's actually attached to the heater system that allows you to get your Tootsies warm real quickly. Now that's using your head. To achieve a quiet cabin, you have to use a lot of technology, a lot of engineering, and you have to make an investment in the quality of product you're building. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Behind the engine, but before the cabin area, is what they refer to as a bulkhead. This is the steel the competition uses to isolate you from your engine. This is the steel that Ford uses to isolate you from the engine. Let me show you where some of that investment pays off real quickly. To do it, we're going to use a super sensitive sound meter. To do that, David, if you'd come in, please. I'm going to wrap on this steel. We'll take a sound measurement of both pieces and compare. Again, this is the competition.
Super Duty competition reads 105.2 dB.
Here's Ford.
Super Duty quiet steel reads 93.9 dB.
You can hear the difference. 93.9 for Ford, 105.2 for the competition. If that comparison doesn't sound large enough to you, think about what sound does. It gets louder with every increment. Yeah, you got to invest to buy quiet. Apparently, they tell me that before I even introduced myself in the front of this journey, I said under my breath, this was going to be fun. I hope it was for you, because it certainly was for me. I've thoroughly enjoyed introducing you to this all-new era of Super Duty pickup trucks. By way of reminder, the innovation and why Ford leads this segment by so much. The introduction of the all-new F450. This truck tows 24,500 pounds. That puppy's all about getting the job done. This new Power Stroke 6.4-liter diesel, 10 million miles of durability testing. Talk about drivability. This dual sequential turbo motor is not only quiet, but it has good pickup right off the bottom, and of course delivers that massive work torque that you need when you really need to get to work. It's talking about going to work. How about the most powerful gas engine you can get in a pickup truck today? That, of course, is Ford's 6.8-liter V10 gas motor. Best in class horsepower and torque. And remember, torque is critical at this level. The availability of tow command. This is really trick stuff. You got the tow haul mode. You've got the integrated trailer brake controller. Stunning stuff. And now these all new Power Scope mirrors that power out, power back, and fold away. Still the only truck out there using quiet steel in its front bulkhead. Really dedicated to making the interior more quiet. Standard trailer hitch on every Super Duty. You'd think that'd be the norm across the market. It's not. Only Ford puts it on every Super Duty you buy. One of the toughest, most versatile frames that's ever been underneath a Super Duty. I love what this new chassis does for it. And now it's E-coated as opposed to waxed. More cargo volume. That's right. Their cargo box is bigger than anybody else's in this segment. And talk about big. How about the interior? More interior. Well, hip room, shoulder room, and headroom in our cabs. Even compared against that of the largest available from the competition. And of course, I want to remind you, Ford's F-Series pickup trucks have been the best selling in segment for 30 years. Yeah, I have to agree with Toby Keith on this one. This really is the big dog daddy of Super Duty trucks. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy. Built Ford tough, and that's what 650 foot-pounds of torque sounds like. Now I know it seems like an odd place to start, but I wanted to tease you. What follows next, nobody else gets to see. Follow me. Hi, I'm Rick Titus, and I'm coming to you from inside Ford Motor Company's Louisville, Kentucky truck plant. We're here for what they call the beginning build of the 08 Super Duty. And what lies before me is the very backbone of that awesome truck. This is the frame. And some of you may have spotted it's actually on this tooling upside down. That's so they can put all the key components on relatively easy. You also may have caught how shiny it is. That's a function of the all-new E-coating, which is really about corrosion protection. And if you're talking backbone, strength is what you're after. Remember, it comes down to strength, durability, and capability. That's the real inside story on Super Duty. Okay, it's starting to come together now. This is, of course, the Dana 60 monobeam front end for the 4x4 system. This is where the frame, despite still being upside down, really does start to look like a truck. It also gets pretty exciting at this point because you see how strong, how beefy everything is. I mean, that's not for playing around. That's one of the world's strongest four-wheel drive front ends right there. Yeah, it's right here you understand, I think, what Ford Tough really means. 75 years of building strong trucks has taught Ford Motor Company that tough is an ever-evolving process. For 08, 13-inch front brakes, stronger in frame, an E-coat to make sure it's protected against corrosion, and 8 more inches added to the leaf spring to improve on-laden ride quality. See, at Ford, Built Ford Tough is more than just a slogan. Well, this is a spot where Ford's elite team of engine installers plant the power, behind Super Duty. The engine you're looking at is the all-new 6.4-liter Power Stroke diesel. 2 turbos, intercooled, and I mean talking big power. How much? Easy. 350 horsepower and 650 of nothing but pure hard-working torque. Well, this is about our last opportunity to see the major components before the body and the bed go on. This, of course, is the 2-turbocharged Power Stroke diesel. This is Ford's famous Torque Shift 5-speed transmission, which is available to PTO and, of course, has tow-haul mode. You can see the particulate filter right here. That's the key to meeting these 08 emissions. Awesome job. Wanted to show you to give you an idea how serious this all is. Look at this exhaust system. It's all tied into that new particulate filter. This is just awesome, awesome stuff. While Super Duty frames are being mated to their suspension and driveline components, in a whole other section of the 6 million square foot facility, you see the body panels coming together. This is the final fit before they go into the welding fixture. Trust me, this is a little intimidating. I realize this rather intimidating fixture looks like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's actually referred to as a zero-error welding fixture. It has scanning lights, locating pins, and what they call net blocks to confirm the body fit within 1/10 of a millimeter. It plays a crucial role in why all the body seams and gaps and fit on a Super Duty are so accurate. It's also why they last for decades. Ford Tough is in the details. Case in point, new cooling module, 33% larger. It can idle for hours with a PTO unit going, and the serviceability, well, that doesn't have to be so tough, now does it? Quiet, like quality, has to be built in. Case in point, foam in the pillars, sound absorbers in the floor, quiet steel in the front bulkhead, and of course more attention to detail in how you exit the interior air. Yeah, for a lot of people, that's their office, proving, you know what, to be tough, you don't have to be loud. It's not every day you get to see your office be built. Well, this is the bed drop, and as they like to say around here, if you're gonna run them long, then you better build them strong. And to that end, notice everything's been painted underneath. Double wall construction, standard cap rail, and thank goodness tailgate assist is standard because that weighs 90 pounds. 8 monstrous bolts, a locking gate, and that's how you build Super Duties. There is nothing more uniquely American than Ford's Super Duty pickup truck. Thousands of parts, years of development, and assembled by skilled and dedicated work people right here at Ford Kentucky Truck Assembly Plant. From the very first turn of its key, it's ready to serve its owner for decades to come. Good job.